Hey, and welcome back to the Deep Dive.
Yeah.
Today, we're plunging into something that, well, it probably feels familiar, but this dive really shows just how powerful it is. We're talking habits. You know how those tiny little changes you make can kind of quietly, but really dramatically reshape your whole life over time. We've got a really, really insightful piece here. It's packed with practical strategies and some perspectives that might actually surprise you about how habits work, why they stick, or, why they don't, and why figuring this out really matters if you want to make meaningful progress on pretty much anything. So our mission really is to pull out the most valuable nuggets from this source. We want to give you a clear, kind of actionable way to understand how you can leverage this incredible power of habits for yourself. Ready? Okay, let's get into it. So the source kicks off with this bit of math that honestly it really grabs you. It points out that if you manage to improve by just 1% each day, just 1% for a whole year, you actually end up, something like 37 times better.
Yeah, 37 times. It sounds almost unbelievable when you first hear it.
It really does. And the flip side is just as striking. Getting 1% worse each day pretty much grinds you down to nothing. It really highlights this thing we all seem to do, right? Chasing the big dramatic change, that one massive transformation. But the source suggests the quieter truth is that these small habits, the little daily choices, they're already transforming us.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Yeah.
For better or worse.
Exactly. We just don't always notice the scale of it until a lot of time has passed and those changes have really built up. And what's really key here is how the source applies that idea of compounding. We usually think about it with money, like interest accumulating.
Right. Compound interest.
Yeah. But here, it's applied to our actions, our habits. It's so easy to dismiss something tiny, like meditating for 5 minutes, reading just a couple of pages, doing one push-up. In the moment, it feels insignificant. You don't see a huge difference today, maybe not even this week. And that's exactly why we tend to overlook this power, isn't it? We go looking for the huge, immediate changes instead. We want that feeling of a big leap forward. But real transformation, as the source puts it, it's usually not one massive jump. It's the buildup, the cumulative effect. It's the result of lots and lots of small steps done consistently, like adding bricks to a wall, You don't see the whole wall straight away, but every single brick matters.
That brick-by-brick analogy makes a lot of sense. Okay, so if these small habits are the bricks, the source thing gives us a really helpful way to understand how they actually get put in place, how habits really form. It breaks it down into 4 stages. Noticing, wanting, doing, and liking. Understanding these and the kind of levers you can pull within each one gives you a roadmap for building better habits. So let's walk through them. First up, stage 1, noticing. And the material makes a point here that I think will resonate with a lot of people who struggle with, starting things or sticking with them. It suggests that often when we feel like we just lack motivation or willpower, that whole internal battle of, if I just felt like doing it.
Yeah, the feeling like it trapped.
Exactly. The real problem might not actually be motivation. It might just be a lack of clarity. You should do something, but the specifics, the how, when, where, they aren't really defined.
That's spot on. Relying on feeling motivated is, it's unreliable, isn't it? Motivation comes and goes. Clarity gives you a plan that works regardless of your mood. And the key strategy the source talks about for this is called implementation intentions.
Implementation intentions.
Yeah, it sounds a bit formal, but it's actually really simple. It just means explicitly stating when, where, and how you'll perform the habit. It basically takes the decision-making out of the moment, when you might be tired or distracted or just not feeling it. The structure is super straightforward. I will do this behavior at this time in this location.
Okay. So instead of, I should exercise more.
Right. It becomes, I will exercise for 30 minutes at 6 a.m. in my living room on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. See? Much clearer. Less ambiguity.
Okay. Defining the what, when, where. That makes total sense for getting started. But, life happens, right? Plans get thrown off course. What does the source say about dealing with those inevitable bumps in the road?
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's another really clever strategy for that. The failure pre-mortem.
Failure pre-mortem. Sounds a bit grim.
It does sound a bit dramatic, I know. But the idea is really practical. You basically imagine yourself, say, 6 months down the line, and you failed. You didn't stick with the habit. Then you tell the story of why you failed. What specifically went wrong? What challenges came up? What distractions derailed you? What knocked you off course?
Okay. So you're anticipating the problem.
Exactly. By pinpointing those potential failure points before they happen, you can actually build resilience into your plan from the start. You can create if-then plans, like if I can't exercise on Monday at 5 p.m. because my kid's soccer practice runs late, then I will go Tuesday morning at 7 a.m. instead.
Right, like a backup plan baked in.
Precisely. So when a barrier pops up, you don't just give up. You already have a pre-decided response. It makes you much less likely to just abandon the whole thing. It's about planning for reality, really.
Planning for failure to ensure success. I like that twist. Okay, moving on to stage 2. Wanting. This stage gets into something really powerful, but maybe often overlooked. Our physical environment. The source really hammers home how much our surroundings influence what we feel like doing. What we want is often just what's easy, what's available, what's right there in front of us.
Yeah, this is huge. It flips the script from feeling like you're just a victim of your environment, you know? Oh, there are cookies on the counter, I guess I have to eat them.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Right, to becoming the architect of your environment. You actually have the power to design your space to make the good stuff easier and the less desirable stuff harder.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
Well, the examples they give are pretty intuitive. Want to practice guitar more? Don't hide it in the closet. Put it on a stand right in the middle of your living room. You'll see it constantly. It's easy to just pick up.
Makes sense. Reduce the friction.
Exactly. Or want to read more? When you make your bed in the morning, put the book you intend to read right on top of your pillow.
So it's the first thing you encounter when you go to bed.
Right. The core idea is, look, willpower can push through a bad environment maybe once or twice, but consistently sticking to a good habit when you're constantly fighting your surroundings, that's incredibly difficult. So you need to design your world to actually support the habits you want to build. Make the cues obvious.
Make the desired behavior the path of least resistance.
Got it. Okay, stage 3, doing. The crucial insight here, especially when you're just starting a new habit, is apparently just getting the reps in, just doing the thing over and over. The focus isn't so much on the big outcome yet, but more on just mastering the act of performing the habit itself.
That's right. Think about the outcomes you want, losing weight, finishing a project, whatever it is, as points along a kind of spectrum of repetitions. The more times you actually do the action, the more reps you bank, the higher the likelihood you eventually reach that outcome you're aiming for.
So more reps equals better chance of success.
Basically, yeah. And the really key takeaway here is this. Optimize for the starting line, not the finish line.
Optimize for the start, not the finish. That sounds backward. It does feel a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? Because we usually get fixated on the milestone, the big goal, losing 50 pounds, writing the whole book, hitting some subscriber number. That's the finish line.
Yeah.
But the source argues that if you shift your focus to making it incredibly easy just to begin, just to get those first few reps in, well, the outcomes often start to take care of themselves. They become a natural consequence of that consistent action.
So make starting ridiculously easy, and the results will follow.
Pretty much. Reduce the friction to starting. That's the name of the game in this stage.
Interesting. Okay, finally, stage 4. Liking. This one feels fundamental. We repeat behaviors because, well, we enjoy them, right? It's some kind of reward. If we don't enjoy the experience or the eventual outcome, we're probably not going to stick with it for long.
Absolutely. And this really highlights a core problem with a lot of good habits, doesn't it?
Well,
think about it. The immediate consequence of, say, going for a run or eating a salad is often effort, discomfort, maybe even boredom. It's a cost right now.
Yeah, definitely.
But the reward, getting healthier, mastering a skill, achieving that long-term goal that's often way off in the future, it's delayed. And our brains, they're wired for immediate gratification, not delayed rewards.
Right. Instant payoff wins.
Usually, yes.
Okay.
So the challenge becomes, how do you find ways to bring some kind of reward into the present moment? How do you make the habit feel satisfying now? The source has a great line about this. The best way to change long-term behavior is with short-term feedback. You need something immediate.
Short-term feedback. Okay, like what?
Well, one specific strategy they describe is using a simple visual tracker, like a wall calendar. Every day you perform your habit. Let's say it's writing jokes for 15 minutes. You put a big X on that day on the calendar.
Okay, I've heard of this kind of thing.
Yeah, it leverages what's often called the don't break the chain principle.
Don't break the chain.
Right. At first, you might miss a day here and there, But eventually, you start building up a string of X's. 4 days, 5 days, 10, 20 in a row. And at that point, something interesting happens. Your immediate motivation often shifts. It becomes less about the writing itself and more about simply not breaking that chain of X's.
Ah, so the reward is seeing the unbroken streak.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if the writing felt great that day or the workout was amazing. The immediate reward, the little dopamine hit, comes from seeing that visual proof of progress right there on the wall. Maintaining the streak becomes the short-term feedback. It provides a dose of satisfaction right now that the promise of being a great comedian or being super fit way off in the future just can't compete with in the moment.
Don't break the chain. I can totally see how that visual progress could be really motivating day to day. Okay, so we've covered a lot. The surprising power of compounding, the 4 stages, noticing, wanting, doing, liking, and some really practical strategies like implementation intentions, failure premortems, designing your environment, focusing on the start line, and tracking progress visually. But the material goes even deeper, doesn't it? It gets into what feels like the most profound idea of all, that real lasting change isn't just about tweaking behaviors or getting different results. It's actually about changing your identity.
This identity piece is crucial.
It mentions how we sometimes resist change because subconsciously, maybe, we fear leaving behind who we are now. But the change isn't this sudden cliff edge. It happens slowly, subtly. Plank by plank, board by board, habit by habit, as the source puts it.
Yeah, that's a great way to phrase it. And this identity concept really ties everything together. The source makes a really compelling case that consistency and repetition don't just change your results, they change your sense of self. Because your actions provide the evidence for the beliefs you hold about who you are.
Evidence? How so?
Well, think about it. If you consistently go to the gym 3 times a week for a year, that action provides powerful evidence that you are the type of person who exercises regularly. You are a healthy person.
Right.
If you study Spanish for 20 minutes every single day, that builds evidence that you are studious, you are a language learner, your actions shape your beliefs about yourself. And they use this brilliant metaphor. Every single action you take is like casting a vote for the type of person you want to become.
Vote. I like that.
Yeah. So if you want to become a writer, every time you actually sit down and write, even just for a few minutes, you're casting a vote for the identity of writer. The more votes you cast through consistent action, the more likely you are to kind of win the election and truly internalize that new identity. You don't need perfection. You don't have to cast a vote every single time, but you need to build up a body of work, a history of those votes.
So the goal shifts. It's not just about doing something.
Exactly. The ultimate goal isn't just to, say, run a marathon or write a book or learn an instrument. It's to become someone. To become a runner, a writer, a musician, a reader, a healthier person.
And the way to become that person
is by doing the things that person does. It's this beautiful feedback loop. Every time you practice the habit in that moment, you are being that person. You're embodying the identity.
Wow.
So habits aren't just tools for external success, getting a promotion or losing weight. They are really the fundamental pathway to internal change. They're how we forge our deepest sense of self, who we believe we are.
That vote metaphor and habits, building evidence for identity, that feels incredibly powerful, really shifts the perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so to kind of pull this all together as we wrap up this deep dive, we've seen the amazing compounding power of just those tiny 1% improvements. We've walked through the 4 stages, noticing, wanting, doing, and liking, and we've dug into some really practical strategies from the source, using implementation intentions for that crucial clarity, planning for setbacks with failure premortems and if-then plans.
Right, and consciously shaping your environment, optimizing the starting line to just get going, and using tracking like don't break the chain for that immediate feedback.
Yeah, exactly. All really useful tools.
And maybe the biggest takeaway, as we just discussed, is that profound insight about identity. How these consistent actions aren't just changing what you do, they're fundamentally reshaping who you are, one habit, one vote at a time.
And these aren't just, abstract ideas. They're concrete tools, strategies outlined in the source that you can literally start playing with right now. To intentionally shape your actions and ultimately who you become, it really leaves you with a powerful question to ponder, doesn't it? If every single small action you take is essentially a vote for the kind of person you're becoming, well, what kind of person are your current daily habits voting for?
That's definitely something to think about.
Definitely. Food for thought as you go about your day. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.